Missouri takes on Drake in the first round of the NCAA Tournament, a contrast of styles, but one that I think is ultimately going to favor the Tigers. Let's talk about it on this special live edition of Locked On Mizzou.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou Mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball, coming to you live here on YouTube just after the game here after the announcement, I should say, here of Missouri Selection Sunday taking on Drake. And if you're watching the broadcast on CBS, well, you'll see that a lot of them were going, woo, big matchup, exciting matchup, hold on to your hats, that kind of deal, because you got one of the highest scoring teams in the country in Missouri taking on the best scoring defense in the nation. And I'll just say this is when all of those advanced statistics, really you're just counting possessions and doing a little bit of basic division. This isn't that complicated of stuff here. So this is important to point out here, though, because Drake, while obviously a very good defensive team, they're not number one in the country when you adjust for not only pace, but opponent as well. Now Drake, 46th in the country defensively. Still very good, still better than Missouri, but it's not knocking your socks off like number one is, because when you look at adjusted tempo, Drake is 364th in the country. And in terms of average possession length on offense, 364th. The reason that's important is because there are indeed 364 Division I basketball teams. So they are dead last in the country in terms of just being incredibly slow. That's not necessarily a bad thing, mind you, but what it is that it means that they're not as good defensively as they look, for obviously a couple of different reasons here. But I will say this, if you're going to talk yourself into a Drake win over Missouri, well, you can definitely say that, well, the lack of possessions there, if they can keep it at their pace, they've got a much better chance, without a doubt. So that will be something to look at. Can Missouri push the pace with its probably superior depth, I would imagine, just in terms of the amount of players the Tigers are going to play? Of course, hey, I'm just finding out about this matchup. I'm going to have a much deeper idea of what exactly the Drake Bulldogs are looking like here over the next few days or so. By the way, Iowa looking for a coach. Ben McCollum doing pretty well at Drake. Des Moines, Iowa is, of course, where Drake is. For those of you who are unfamiliar, could be a match there in the future. Maybe Drake and Ben McCollum a little bit distracted by that. And maybe I'm grasping for straws and just hoping so at this point. So I don't want to seem dismissive here of the Bulldogs, because I know they can take Missouri down, because, well, they took down Vanderbilt earlier this season, November 24th to be exact, by 11 points on a neutral site. They beat Kansas State as well on a semi-neutral site. Semi-away is how Ken Palm describes it here. But other than that, I have to admit, the most impressive victories by Drake, 3 wins over a top 100 opponent in Bradley, who's 95th in the country, according to Ken Palm, but no other wins outside of those 2 against Kansas State and Vanderbilt in the top 100 in the country. So, again, don't want to be dismissive of Drake at all, especially because 2 of the things they do very well offensively is something that can hurt Missouri. They're 17th in the country in offensive rebounding, and also 11th in free throws per field goal attempted. So they draw a lot of fouls, and they get to the line a lot. That's something Missouri has had trouble with here lately, is obviously defending without fouling. And if you've listened to this show lately, you know I think in the NCAA tournament, the whistle tightens up a little bit too. At least it tends to. That's just from my experience over the decades watching this tournament, at least compared to SEC basketball and certainly old school Big 12 basketball, which was just on the road was rather physical, to say the least, back in the day for the Missouri Tigers and everybody else. Kelvin Sampson, I'm looking at you. Eduardo Nahara, I'm looking at you. So, again, as I was rolling through this tournament, I don't know about you, I had some thoughts on the other revelations in the bracket, and also, of course, the rest of this bracket. And I think this actually is a favorable matchup for Missouri, just compared to the rest of the 11 seeds you could have faced. I think North Carolina, in particular, getting an 11 seed, well, that would have been, to me, a much scarier matchup for Missouri. I know people think of North Carolina as a program that is down right now. I still think the upside of that team is quite simply just higher than Drake's. And, well, based on a lot of evidence, I think North Carolina has a better season than Drake by quite a spell this year. I think the betting lines over at FanDuel Sportsbook will back me up. But you know what? Some real familiar faces in the West region with Missouri, including Florida, Kansas, Arkansas, Memphis. Let's take a look at the rest of this bracket that features our Missouri Tigers, of course. Before I get there, though, just quickly, let me remind you about Supply House, because whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. And their easy-to-use website is just packed full of everything you could possibly need, a huge inventory, more than 200,000 parts, and they'll find exactly what you need and deliver it fast from coast to coast in the United States. And if you need help, Supply House has expert support, industry-leading service, and trade pros. Also, if you're looking for an edge, their free Trade Master program, thousands of skilled professionals already take advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. And by, as I switch the graphic, your home should reflect your style, and with Wayfair, it's easier than ever to make that happen. Whether you're into a simple refresh or you want to just tackle a whole rebuild, well, Wayfair has absolutely everything you need, from cozy furniture to stylish decor, easy shopping and delivery, and more than just furniture as well. Head over to wayfair.com and find something that's just your style today. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every home, every style. All right, sorry, 1 second there, and we're back. And give me a second here just actually to pull up the NCAA tournament bracket here. And by the way, I am going to take some of your comments here. A lot of them are firing in. Let's see. I will have to peruse them. And Zoomer21, by the way, pointing out Kansas versus Missouri in the Sweet 16 is now a possibility. Holy cow. Imagine if that actually happens. I got to be honest, I think most years I would say bring on the Jayhawks. But now that the Tigers have the bragging rights for this season, I don't know. Do we want that matchup or not? I think that's a great question for all of you in the audience, to be honest. Drake underseeded, according to one viewer. So obviously there's a lot of different opinions here. I think this is a somewhat favorable matchup for Missouri. 270 videos thinks we could beat him, but he thinks Drake is underseeded. Don't let Josh Gray dribble the ball. Hey, let's be nice. Drake, point guard, really good. He won't get rattled. Well, Todd, that's something I'm definitely going to have to look at here, because veteran guard leadership in March is a big deal for sure, without question. We have any idea on time, Tyler asks. No times are set yet. I think that comes here in the next couple days. But Wichita, obviously a favorable matchup, well, a favorable location, I should say, for Missouri, especially for amateur podcasters. Well, I should say semi-professional podcasters at this point. Some of you complain about the ads, so I had to throw that in there. But the point is, Wichita, a great place for lots of Missouri fans, a drivable location, without a doubt. Heck, I'm going to try to get on down there. Hopefully tickets aren't too expensive, or maybe Locked On can get me a media pass. What do you think, guys? Zach, David Locke, I'm looking at you now. So anyway, back to my thoughts as sort of this bracket was unfolding itself. First of all, when I knew that Missouri was obviously in the final region there, the West, as it was being unveiled, I immediately thought number 1 seed Florida, well, like Dr. Nick Riviera with the Springfield Coroner, I thought, I am so sick of these guys. I really am. I don't want another piece of Florida that badly, nor Arkansas at this point either. Enough with Trevin Brazil. I think we're all sick of him. And by the way, St. John's, the number 2 seed in Missouri's bracket in the West, I think they're very legit. I think Maryland is legit, even though I think this is a relatively decent matchup. Drawing Drake as an 11 seed, I think the rest of the bracket, kind of a murderer's row. I think a lot of people thought Auburn's bracket looked tough on first reveal, the South Regional. I have to say my instinct was cakewalk to the Final Four for Auburn. That was my initial instinct there. Of course, initial instincts are what they are, and I'm going to do a lot more homework over the bracket on this NCAA tournament bracket, of course, over the coming days here. And by the way, when I saw Texas made it into the field, I thought there was a real good chance that Missouri, especially with, I believe Georgia was an 8 seed, Kentucky revealed as a 3. Missouri ends up a 6, which was kind of the consensus with all the bracket prognosticators out there coming in. The way the bracket was unveiling itself, there was a moment I thought, maybe 5 seed, maybe even a 4 seed. I was talking myself into Seattle at a certain point and flying up there at a certain point. But to be honest, while I'd rather visit Seattle in a vacuum, Wichita, a lot more drivable. So I'm pretty happy with how that part of it turned out for sure. So with all that being said, by the way, if Missouri does win its first 2 games, regional finals and in the regional semifinals will be in San Francisco at the Chase Center where the Golden State Warriors play, that glittering new arena in downtown San Francisco. So there you go. That'll wrap it up for this quick edition here of Locked On Mizzou. And join me tomorrow for, well, a little bit more of my usual action. Not live, that's for sure, but we'll have a little bit more of a polished edition of Locked On Mizzou. Let's put it that way. But you know what? I enjoy the danger of the live element. Don't you like living dangerously? It's a lot of fun. Just admit it. And it's going to be fun to see the Tigers in the tournament. And by the way, if you have an Amazon Fire TV, please check out Locked On's coverage on the Amazon Fire TV. You're going to be really, really impressed. Bracket breakdown. It's going to be awesome. Amazon's put a lot of money into this thing, a real television studio, for lack of a better term, down in Dallas. It's going to be impressive stuff. I'll let you know if I'm going to be on there. Hopefully when Missouri's advancing into at least the Sweet 16 or so. Let's say that. I'll definitely be on, is the point, if Missouri advances at least that far. So until tomorrow, I am John Miller, and thanks for listening to this live edition of Locked On Mizzou.